We got a great show for you tonight. Some really good discussion on the major challenges of infield play. Excited to get into that, dig into that. Before we dig into it, I want to share with you one last opportunity. We got session number 3 tomorrow for our the Trosky Mongero virtual infield camp. First 2 sessions were fantastic. Each Wednesday and next Wednesday will be session 3 with a focus on glove side plays. 2-hour camp, 1-hour Q&A, total of 3 hours to finish up a wonderful 3 weeks. Now you might be thinking, I didn't go to camp 1 or session 2, so why would I go to session 3? They're standalone camps. You can go. Okay. You're going to get a lot out of it, even if you didn't do the previous. In fact, you can buy the links to the first 2 camps if you want, which will be well worth it. Want to give a quick thank you to our partners, Quality at Bats, Steve Springer. Outstanding job. A lot of you know him. Some of you don't. If you don't, you need to get to know him. Top mental guy in the country when it comes to the mental side of hitting. And of course, Jager Sports. A lot of people know his bands, the J bands, but there's so much more behind what Alan does. Just a great baseball mind, giving back to our community. And of course, the Monterey Bay Pirates, where we're actually filming the camps. They've been, they're doing a great job for us, allowing us to film the camps in their facility. So we wanted to give them a shout out as well on Trosky Tuesday tonight. So we're going to talk about the major challenges of infield play. My gut instinct is we might get through 2 of them tonight, but that's okay, because here's our goal. Okay, our goal is to dig deep into this stuff and to cover information in a way to make it understandable, which is to simplify, okay, but give you insight into the mind of elite level players and some of the things that they deal with. I mean, elite level infielders still have challenges. And of course, intermediate to beginner infielders are certainly going to have challenges. But, a lot of us think as we advance through the game and we play at the highest levels, that we somehow don't have challenges anymore. And that's simply not true. So Nate, awesome to have you on, man. You got your hat on. Is it hot out there in California today or what?
Thank you, Trent. Welcome, everybody. It's a beautiful day here in California. I'm sure it's beautiful in Georgia. Yeah, it's probably about 80 degrees, but I'm on the turf right now. We're doing some run tour work, so it's a little hot, but it's probably about 90 on the turf, but it's all good.
Awesome.
It's a beautiful day. And we're looking forward to today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And our mission and our passions about helping you guys really reach your ceiling, because so many of us did not. And that's why we're doing what we do, is because we care about your future. And there's nothing more important, I know, to you than your future. And so we're here to really help you guys on your journey. And the topics that we're really covering, are topics that are not discussed a lot. And we're also busy just getting through the day and even just trying to find time to find a field to get our ground ball work in, and just our drills and everything from our quick feet drills to our long toss. It never ends. So we're covering some key components that are really going to have a major effect on the mental game, which ultimately affects really your results. So we're excited about today, and Trent, you can fire away.
All right. Well, let's dive right in. So the first major challenge of infield play, and I'm really excited, I can't wait to turn this one over to you, is something we call the voice of doubt. And, I hit on it a second ago, where people probably think that major league players, college players, Division I players, that they don't have this voice of doubt. Well, Nate, I'm going to let you explain a little bit about the voice of doubt and give us some insight into how it impacts infielders at all levels.
Right, well, I'll start with just asking you, Trent. You played professional baseball, you played professional middle infield, shortstop. That means you're a high-profile player, drafted, played with the Braves, played with many players that have went through the big leagues, guys like Chipper Jones. We look at everybody on the outside and we think everybody has it together. We literally feel like, wow, if the guy's strong, he has a nice, pair of cleats and a nice glove, and he got his work, and that means everything that you can't see, which really is the invisible. The mental game is invisible. You can't see it, but you really can, because your results are a product of how you think. So your results are a product of the invisible. So we see what we see and we think, wow, that guy looks like a good player. But inside, really, what is going on? And there's many challenges that come from the voice of doubt and just being an infielder. So I'm going to ask you as an infielder, where were you at in regards to, as a player, would you say you noticed it coming and going? So let's just start maybe in college. Would you say that you noticed it 20% of the time? You noticed it maybe 5% of the time? You noticed it only at certain moments after maybe you made an error? When would you notice maybe more times than not?
Well, I would say that, first of all, I want to clarify that Chipper and I we didn't play together. We were in the Braves organization at the same time. So just in case anybody's on here that knows my story, I didn't want them to feel like I was trying to mislead anybody. But yes, I did play with numerous guys that went and played and finished in the big leagues. So getting to your question, I would say, Nate, that as I progressed through college, my voice of doubt percentages decreased because my confidence increased. However, it never completely went away. The voice of doubt was there, and the voice of doubt was usually there more for me if I made a couple errors. I didn't make a bunch of errors typically, and if I had a bad game, you know, it would happen during the game. Like I would start thinking about it. There's pressure on you. You're trying to win positions. This is collegiately, even going into professionally. I'm kind of lumping them together right now. But just when it comes to the voice of doubt, it was with me my entire career to a degree. Even though most people would have said, he's an elite level player, especially in college. But deep down inside, you have to fight it, and there's ways that we'll get to, and I'd like to share later on how I tried to suppress my voice of doubt and bring about the internal confidence, that would ultimately help me play my best when I was confident. So
I see you're a professional infield. You played professional infield. You played collegiate Division I baseball. You're playing in the middle, a high profile position. You're an athlete. You're a good athlete. You're very successful. And the voice of doubt. This is the point I want to make, is that he's an elite player, and he's not the only one. It's like everybody. And the reason is because we're human. And fear is a product basically of the unknown. And the future, nothing. You literally do not know the future. Nobody does. And that's why every human being has a sense of doubt and fear, because doubt is fear, but it kind of works together. So you have this, I hope, I think. Well, how do you really know if you're going to make the next play? How do you know? Nobody knows. How does the pitcher know he's going to get the hitter out? Well, and that's not the equation to being confident. And that's basically how we base our confidence on. Well, yeah, when I know something, I'm confident. Well, the problem is you don't know. And that's where doubt comes in, because doubt is a product of the unknown, and the unknown is the future. So if I'm playing infield and I'm playing 140 pitches on average in the average game, 140 pitches, first of all, when is the ball coming to me? I don't know. So there's doubt already. Doubt already comes in right there. When will the ball come to me? The second is every infielder has a vulnerable spot. They have a weak spot. So, and even if it's not weak, they might be just insecure about it. So it could be like my backhand. I just don't like that one backhand play, or the ball tends to pop out when I get the ball in a certain spot in my backhand. Okay. Or, the slow roller, I'm just a little tentative when the ball's to my right and the ground's a little bumpy because in the past I've made a mistake. So everybody has a spot. And as a human being, what happens is it sits in your unconscious mind. So one is the ball coming to me for 140 pitches? I have no idea when it's coming. The second is I don't even know what kind of play's coming when it comes. And third is, what if it's the play that I'm a little yellow about, a little tentative about? The one that I just don't know if I really want it, because I'm not as consistent on that play as the other ones. So you have this issue of doubt, and it just creeps and it creeps. And the slower the game, the worse you're hitting, it just starts to build. And then the dirt starts to get a little rough. Then it gets a little cold and your arm gets a little stiff. And maybe you even made a mistake in the first inning, or maybe your pregame wasn't very good. And the infield really isn't very predictable. So this element of doubt is real. and it is powerful. Now, when we think of doubt, well, what is the negative results of doubt? I was talking to a friend recently about major league pitchers. When you think of big leaguer, you go, do they have any doubt? Well, of course they do, because they're human. And that's the determining factor. Are you human? If you're a robot, you don't have doubt, but no one's a robot. We're all human. So we all have feelings, we have emotions, and we all fear. Every human being fears the future. So some people are wired a little different. They are so present, and that's just who they are. And they have this level of confidence that's second to none. Well, my hat's off to that guy. That's like 0.5% in the world. Okay, then the other guy is, he trains his brain and he practices and he gets his mind present and he has a routine. He has strategies. He has tools in the toolbox and he gets good at it. And the other guy just builds it over time. And he gets so good, or he's so talented, even if he makes a mistake, even if he has a little doubt, he's usually able to make plays. So what do we do with the doubt? Who has it? Everybody has it. What do we do with it? And when we think about the mental game, the physical game is controlled by the mental game. We call it the 95-5. So the 95-5 is the 5% mental controls the 95% physical. So if you want your physical game to take care of itself and to do what you've prepared it to do, the 5% has to be intact. It has to be aligned. It has to be centered. So the question is how do you do it? Because it's real. At the ABCA a few years ago, I spoke on the main stage and I talked about the mental game. We covered some of these topics very briefly. And after, several guys came up to me and they said, hey, I appreciate your talk. I really like talking the mental game. So I go, you know what? I asked the first guy, I said, did you have the voice of doubt? We called it the VOD. I said, did you have the VOD? The first guy, he goes, yeah, I was a AAA infielder. I had the voice of doubt my whole career. I'm like, really? Interesting. So what I did was I just started talking to guys that whole day. And the next day I just started asking infielders, any infielder I would speak to. The next guy was the owner of Warstick. He was a top draft pick, very tooled. And he came up to me and he said, let me tell you, man, I really appreciate what you're doing. He says, what you're saying is real. Let me tell you something. I struggled every single game wondering if I wanted the ball or not. This guy's in A-ball, trying to get up to the big leagues, talented, but the 5% is literally limiting him. And I just kept asking another guy, college World Series shortstop, did you have the voice of doubt? Yes, I did. What'd you do with it? Most guys have no idea what to do with it because everybody thinks just because you're a talented player and you're on the middle of the field or you're a starter, everybody thinks you got it together. And that is the absolute false. So if we can deal with the voice of doubt and learn how to overcome, you know what happens? You reach your ceiling. And that's the ultimate goal. Can you reach your ceiling and play at peak performance? Now, you're going to make mistakes. Do you want to comment at all, Trent, before I keep going? It might be nice.
Well, no, we lost your video, but there you are. You're back. No, you're killing it right now. And it's so important. Listeners, please, if you're a parent, coach, or player, please open your ears and listen to what Nate is saying, because we're going to address some of the ways to reduce doubt and increase confidence in just a minute. So you just keep on rolling, brother. You're nailing it.
Okay, super. So the VOD, you have the VOD and you have the VOC. The VOC is the voice of confidence, the VOC. Then you have the VOD. Well, the VOD and the VOC comes and goes according to many different things, the elements, the situation, the circumstance. There's all these things that play into the picture of the voice of confidence and the voice of doubt. Well, the great infielder has the ability to stay present with the voice of confidence. How do you do it? I'm going to give you a few examples. Let's talk a little more about the mental game. So there's 3 time zones. Fear is the future. That is doubt. That's the future. That's the unknown, worrying about what might happen. So the mind is only in 3 time zones, period. There's no you can't negotiate it. There's 3 time zones and you're in one of them. And success only takes place in the present, period. It's the present, period. There's no comma. There's nothing extra. It's period. Success takes place in 1 TZ. We call it 1 time zone. Success. Now, if you go to the past, that's worrying about something that already happened. That's called frustration. That's the did, something that happened already, the did. Then you have the don't, which is the future. I hope I don't get a bad hop. I hope I don't get a backhand. I hope I don't make a mistake. I hope. That's the don't. So you have the don't, which is the future, and you have the did, that is the past. So the question is where is your mind? Because your mind, the 5% controls the 95. So you have to recognize, you have to have a sense of awareness. Where are you at? Because you have to immediately make an adjustment. Well, what adjustment do you make? So what you'll notice is a large percentage of infielders throughout the game, they are not present. They're either thinking about something that happened, they're either at bat, maybe last inning, maybe an error, something, or they're in the future. So if you want to dominate the diamond, you have to learn how to be in the do. We call it the do, the do, the do, the do. The do is so simple. It is so simple, it's ridiculous, but it's so hard to do. So this is the do. You have the did, which is the past. You have the don't, which is the future. And you have the did, and you have the do that is present. The do is present. What is the do? Now, the mind is vast and it will wander. So if I can control my focus, what happens, I feel what I think. So whatever I'm thinking, that's how I feel. So if I want to feel confident, I have to think confident. I have to think confident and I need to be present. So this is what I do. I block out any negative thought, the voice of doubt, because it's coming. I block it out. And all I do is I focus on the do, which is making plays, making plays, making plays. Now think about this. If my mind is focused on making plays only, that means my light is green, and this is what it means. The law of attraction now comes into play. The body seeks to accomplish what the mind thinks in pictures. If the mind is unsure, the body is unsure. If the mind is right, all the forces in the body work together to accomplish the goal of the activity. If the goal of the activity is to field the ball and throw the guy out, that's the goal, okay? Making plays, and I focus on that. You know what happens? When my mind is focused, the body, all the forces in the body work together to accomplish the goal of the activity. So you go, how does that guy make plays? He's not even that good. And why does the guy with so much talent make errors? It's because of the voice of doubt. Because the body literally seeks to accomplish what you're thinking. And if my mind is focused and committed, it's called commitment. Expect and commit. Expect and commit. And we don't expect and commit because we're going to make every play, because you're not going to. And that's the problem, because our perspective is off. We think if we make a mistake, we messed up. If I make an error, I'm not good. My coach isn't going to like me. I might lose my job. We have all these fears, which is the future. It's all based on the don't. I hope this doesn't happen. Get my mind present. Commit to the do. So what I do is I focus, literally before the ball's pitched, I tell myself, making plays, making plays, making plays. And when the ball's hit, my mind is focused and present on making what? The play. And if I'm committed to making that play, you know what happens? We already said it. You make plays. Literally like Bruce Lee. There's a special out on Bruce Lee right now. He says, be like water. He says, if you put water in the cup, it becomes the cup. Clear your mind. Be like water. Well, literally, if you clear your mind and you focus on the do, you become the do. Literally, you become the do. You make plays. That's all you do. They're going, what happened to that guy? That guy's really good. It's because he knows how to work with his mind. And some people, like I said, innately have it. But most of us have to work with our mind. We have to train the brain. We have to go to the mind gym and we have to practice. And it is so simple. It's the VOC, the voice of confidence, the voice of confidence. Then you have the P, positive self-talk, PST, positive self-talk. Then you have the NST, negative self-talk. So what's going to win? And that's the question, because the 5% controls the 95. And if you want to play with freedom, athleticism, at your best, you have to focus on the do, period. One time zone, one TZ, success takes place, one time zone. So you have to master. Now you have 140 pitches. You have to do it the whole game. I'm making plays. I'm making plays. I'm making plays. I'm making plays. The whole game. You focus on the do. And what happens is the voice of doubt can't even come in because you're blocking. You're not letting it in. It's like you lock the door because it can't get in when your mind is focused on something good, something positive, success. So really we have a choice and we have to practice it, but we don't talk about it enough. The greatest problem with the voice of doubt is that you think when you make a mistake, there's a problem. And that's the biggest problem. That's where the fear and the tension comes. If I make a mistake, I let my team down, my teammates are going to get mad. So what we have to do is shape our perspective. When you stop caring about making mistakes, you know what happens? You don't make them because the voice of doubt goes away. That's the VOD.
Holy cow. Seriously, man, that is unbelievable. And right, it reminds me so much of hitting, like redefining what success is. And like taking the batting average out of it, hits versus not getting hits, and like let's focus more on hitting the ball hard. So on defense, you know, we have to redefine success and understanding that making a mistake doesn't mean we're a bad player, and how quickly can we bounce back, right? So like, to me, because everybody's different, what Nate said is true. That applies to everybody, but how you build your confidence, like you can't take a 10-year-old and put him on a Division I field and expect him to be confident. He can have all the right thoughts in the world. His skill set's not there. So in order to build a skill set, I think the physical and the mental go hand in hand. The better your skill set gets, the more your confidence improves. Okay. You think the right thoughts, you know, on top of that, now you're talking about a very special human being as a player, and everybody is designed differently. There are guys in the big leagues that have unbelievably short memories. It's like they don't, they're present always. And like you said, it's half of a percent. Okay. I've only seen a couple of those guys in my entire life, but to me, like, you know, preparation was key. Like when I prepared, if I got ground balls at game speed, I'm making throws, and I'm consistent, and I'm doing my drill work, and I'm consistent, I'm handling my routines, routines breed confidence because it's familiarity. And so you do your routines, you do your prep work, you get your ground balls, you operate at game speed, you make throws. The more accurate your throws in different circumstances on different plays, you start to realize, you know what, I really can do this. And then as you go through high school and you make plays, and then you get to college, and you start feeling intimidated because you're at the Division I level and you're playing with these superstars, and you realize after 2 weeks, you know what, I'm as good as these guys, and you realize you belong, and then you start working again, and you build your way up, and you get professionally. It's like, what I want the takeaway to be is players, the coaches, the parents that are on here, you need to understand that we all have the voice of doubt. So we have to learn how to defeat it. We have to defeat it. Okay. And when you learn to defeat it through preparation and through the right thinking, so that you are present on the do, okay, not the did or the don't, but the do, you have your greatest odds of being successful. And you can do everything right, and sometimes you're going to make a mistake. Yeah, we're human beings, but that's why nobody plays a full season at shortstop in the big leagues with 1,000 fielding percentage. Some are very, very close, but you're going to make mistakes. So really, really good. You want to add anything before we move on?
Yeah, I do. I want to add quite a few things. One thing is this, is that I've been teaching baseball for about 35 years. 35 years now. From my experience of learning the mental makeup of players, the mental makeup of a player is a product of their parents. And I'm telling you, this is very accurate. This isn't like 1 out of 10, 5 out of, this is probably 8 to 9.5 out of 10. So what you see is the mental makeup of a player. He reflects his mother and father. And it could be both, could be one or the other, just depends. Depends what their environment's like at home and how much time they spend together. So I can give you 5 examples right now of guys that I'm working with right now. And one guy has mental toughness. He fears nothing, absolutely nothing. And he doesn't even work hard. And we were out training like 2 days ago. And he kind of has that Lenny Dykstra. It's ignorant confidence. For some reason, he thinks he's great. He doesn't do nothing. He has no routines. He does nothing. And he's actually pretty good. You know why? Because the 5% controls the 95. He will get exposed and it will wear out because his talent's very marginal. But his father's confident. And his father is constantly pumping into him. You're great. You can do it. And when someone makes a mistake, what do we do? How do we respond? If you feel tension because your kid made a mistake, you know what happens? He feels you. He can feel you. And you have to learn to have perspective, to understand that this is a very difficult game. And the great players make mistakes. The great players make mistakes regularly. Watch them. So what happens is the tension is energy, it's negative, and it comes from the parents. Now, when I work with my guys, we talk about when we make a mistake, the first thing we practice our response every time. The first response is this, because the question is what is your default? Because everybody has a default. When Greg Maddux would have trouble when he started his career, he had this default of, this was his default. It's very simple. Here we go again. Like, I'm in trouble again, and I'm sick and tired of this. I'm in trouble. Well, that's not positive thinking. That's not the voice of confidence. And you know what happened? The body seeks to accomplish what you're thinking. So he thinks he's in trouble, right? He's in doubt now. You know what happens? He's out in the third inning. His first 2 years, he was not a good pitcher. He was 8-18. He struggled because his default was not good. And what he did was, very simply, he changed his default. So I'm one pitch away from a double play. He changed it to something positive. He changed it to focus on the advantage of the situation. Now, if I have runners on first and second now with nobody out, you know what? I'm in a great place for a double play ball versus I'm in trouble and we have the 3-hole up, okay? I'm going to throw my changeup down away. So it's all how you respond and how you interpret what happens. That's your default. So what you have to do is identify your own default as a player. What is your default? And we talk about it. We were journaling last week. So what's your default? When something happens as a hitter, and we put a category of 10 things that happen that annoy you. We call them thorns. So as a hitter, what happens to you that affects you negatively? The umpire makes a bad call. So you just go through this. What's the same as an infielder? The coach puts me out of position. The coach does this, or I feel like this, or whatever it is. What is your default? How do you respond without even thinking about it? It's a pattern. It's a mental pattern. So what is your mental pattern? And then we need to adjust it. Maddox adjusted. You know what happened the next year? He's on the way to the Hall of Fame. He didn't get a new pitching coach. He didn't change his delivery. By the way, his dad was his pitching coach, okay? And he didn't have video breakdown. He didn't have cutting edge ideas. He didn't have, this special equipment. He didn't have anything. He pitched. He learned how to pitch by pitching. By pitching and pitching and pitching. He worked on command. It's the same as a fielder. Become a master fielder by fielding. You leave nothing unintended. You work on your backhand over and over, different angles, forward, back. So when you think of the mind, you have a default. Okay, what is your default? And then you ask the parents, because the players are a product of their parents. And it is pretty sad because all the players that I work with, I'm talking physical specimens, guys with tools that struggle. And this is a large percentage, not just like, small, this is a big percent. They struggle. I know their parents, their dad's uptight, their dad's worried, and their mom's always worried. They're putting pressure on him when he made a mistake. So that's where it stems. When someone makes a mistake, our response, this is what we do. So we're talking about our default. We literally, every time we miss a ball in practice, it's required that you say SWDC. It's required. SWDC, SWNW. SWDC is so what, don't care. And SWNW is so what, now what? I'm making plays now. That's what I do. And we actually rehearse it. We rehearse it. So the concept Trent was talking about with having routines, yeah, that's very important because confidence is a product. It's learned and it's earned. So how do you earn it? By putting the hours in. That's what Trent's talking about. You learn it through experience. You learn it through preparation. But then that's how you earn it. You learn it by training your brain, like we're talking about, practicing your default, understanding that great infielders make mistakes. And I'll tell you, I had an epiphany that changed my life literally as a musician. I play music, I play baseball music, and playing on the stage, I always thought if I messed up, I was a bum. It's like, man, if I mess up today, man, crowd aren't going to be happy. They're going to think this guy's not very good. I always thought if I missed a note or something, I was in trouble. Well, you know what? I started to learn that the best musicians always mess up, and they just recover well. That's the difference. So you know what? That changed literally my life and my perspective as a performer. Because now I'm on the stage and I don't think I have to be perfect anymore. I have the freedom to mess up. So now I could just be in my heart and just compete and have a great time and enjoy the game and be at my best. It's a beautiful thing, but we don't rarely, because Trent, you just said it, we rarely ever get there. And now we're starting over and we have kids and it's just this endless dysfunctional cycle. So what? Don't care. So what now? And if you make a mistake, so what? Because if you care, you know what happens? It creates tension. You feel what you think and you do what you feel. If I want to make plays, I have to feel good. And I feel good, you know why? Because I don't worry. I don't care. I'm present. I focus on the making plays. And literally, we practice that too. We do make him play ground balls all the time. Before I hit it, he says it. Or whoever I'm working with, making plays. So you commit to making plays. The body seeks to accomplish what you're thinking. If you're thinking about making plays, your body's going to want to make plays. It's going to do everything in its power to make that backhand or that slow roller. So parents, very important, your response, very important. Even unspoken words, powerful. They can feel you. They can sense your tension. You don't have to say one word. So understand, you need to work your perspective more than they do because they're going to respond to you.
That's off the charts. Tony, I don't know if they can see me or not. Not that they have to. I don't know how we're operating tonight, but Nate, I wanted to add on to your point.
Please do.
Yeah. So let's take it to the next step. How about the coaches? You know, the tension that, you know, our body language, our words, the way that we speak, how that impacts the confidence of our team. Okay. If you're a coach and you're coaching youth players, high school players, collegiate players, okay, the best coaches that I ever played for, they were like card players. You never really knew what they were feeling. You know, it was more of a neutral expression when things were going good, when they were going bad from the team perspective, or if somebody made a mistake, they weren't throwing their clipboard down, stomping around, huffing and puffing. You know, they were very calm, and they had this even keel demeanor that we talk about. So as a parent or as a coach, you know, when you can have that demeanor, you put people at ease. Okay. Give them permission to fail. Give them permission. Tell them they don't have to be perfect. Okay. Control the things you control, your effort, your attitude, your focus. Okay. These are the things that you control. You're going to make mistakes once in a while. I just want you to play with freedom. You're a great player. Okay. I've heard numerous basketball examples of shooters who played for coaches that when they made a mistake, they missed a shot, they were immediately pulled, sat on the bench. Right. And what would happen? They would play with tension and they would miss more shots. Then they played for certain coaches that said, when you're open, I want you to take it. I believe in you. You're going to miss some, but that's okay. Nobody makes them all. You got the freedom to pull up and take your shots. Which guy is going to be more successful? The second guy. Okay. So just another example of how, as a coach and a parent, you can create the mindset to really help people be successful. And then you talk about, I'm going to give a musical example. I can't play an instrument or sing worth a flip. Okay. But Nate can. But I have a really good friend who's very, very good at playing music. His name is Dave Matthews of the Dave Matthews Band. And Dave, when I'm talking to Dave, I've asked him, or he'll say things to me like a certain song, they'll be like, we nailed it tonight. Like the band, of course, they always nail it. According to the fans, they always nail it. Like they can't tell when they miss notes, when they make a mistake, but the band knows, but the audience doesn't know, so they just play and they have fun and they enjoy it. Just like Nate's example earlier that he was giving, you can't fear of missing notes, even messing up lyrics. Sometimes you'll notice the band, like Dave will create an entire new verse, or he'll do something a little bit different, and it's just the freedom to perform. And when you perform, fielding is artistic, right, Nate? It's artistic. So there's an element of art to what we're doing. And it's not a science and it's not robotic. It's being an athlete. And being an athlete implies freedom of movement, freedom of thought, okay, freedom of expression. And that's what athletes do. And they make the difficult look easy, right? So anything you want to bounce off of that, or you want ready to move on to the next one?
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit more on this concept. So okay. I've been with the area codes for over 15 years. And the area codes, if you don't know, if you're not familiar, it's the highest profile amateur scouting event in the country. It's ran by Major League Baseball. I've been working with the Milwaukee Brewers for 15 years, and I help help coach the Brewers team. And the Brewers is the best players from Southern California. The best players in America come from Southern California, along with a couple other states as a whole. But Southern California reigns, first rounders, first picks. So the point I'm making is that for years, when I started with those guys, I mean, these are the best. I've coached over 100 major leaguers from our team, including Nolan Arenado, Garrett Cole. The list just goes on. Christian Yelich, they're on my team. And I have the opportunity to see them when they're 17 and work with them and coach them. There's not a lot of coaching going on, but the opportunity to be a part of their experience. And, when you're not that guy, I wasn't a first rounder, right? And most people aren't. So it's such a rare, crowd to be in. And I'm around the best of the best. And what you learn that first rounders, second rounders have emotions too. They're humans. They're scared just like anybody else, because the stage that they're on now is a challenging stage. When they're in high school, most of them feel pretty good, but I'll just tell you, they're insecure because they're human. They're all insecure. It doesn't matter who they are. So don't think just because the kid has a scholarship or he's committed or that kid was Team USA, it doesn't make any difference. They're all mentally weak and they're all mentally challenged. Every single human, because we fear the unknown, and the unknown is the future, and nobody knows the future. Successful is the player who does not know, who cannot see, who does not know, who cannot see, yet still believes. And that's right out of the Bible. The Bible says successful, blessed is the man, the woman who does not know, who cannot see, yet still believes. Well, I'm going to put blessed is the player. Successful is the player. The master player between the lines does not know, cannot see, yet still believes. Because the future you do not know and you can't see it. And that's what faith is, and that's what belief is, and that's what commitment is. And when you train your mind to be present and believe, not because you're going to make every play, that's not even the point. I don't believe I'm going to make every play, but I still have to believe I am, because that's where success comes from. That's the law of attraction. So it doesn't matter if it's a first rounder, it doesn't matter if it's a 10-year-old, it makes no difference. We must understand that everybody deals with the voice of doubt, everybody, and we need to practice it. You can't just talk about it. And what Trent talked about earlier, he talked about coaches. Well, let me tell you, the coach that also doesn't talk to you, you're scared of that guy too. You know why? Because you don't know what he's thinking. The lack of communication at times is worse than communication. So we need to speak to our players. I love you. Let's go. Let's have a great play. Let's have a great game today. Guys, we're going to play hard. We're going to make some mistakes. Hey, Johnny, you're my shortstop because I believe in you. It's a constant, ongoing. And it's like, do you tell your wife, hey, guys that aren't married yet, some of you young guys, hey, one day you need to tell your wife that you love her every day. You know why? Because she forgets. She's human, and she needs to hear it every day. It's the same as a player. Good players, bad players, average players, they all need to know that you believe in them, and they're studs. You're my stud. Good job. Keep working hard. You got it, buddy. You got it. You're doing it. You got to learn how to have the voice of confidence where we're building it into our players. We have to build that voice of confidence into our players. So absolutely essential. We need to practice it. My grandfather in 1936, he broke in the big leagues in 34, and he was a pretty special rookie. Cody Bellinger broke his rookie record, the home run record that stood since 1934. My grandfather has the greatest rookie numbers in the history of the game, from batting average to RBIs. He had 142 RBIs as a 20-year-old rookie. Now here's the point. The point is this: 36 home runs, 330 average, 142 RBIs. I mean, come on. He's a farmer from Iowa. He didn't have one hitting lesson, okay? Not one. And he's the greatest rookie still today. Bellinger broke one of his records. He still has almost every other one. So here's the point, okay? His first game in the big leagues, he struck out 4 times. 4 times. Now understand, he's in the big leagues. He's top prospect. He's the guy, okay? He strikes out 4 times. After the game, he's in the clubhouse, literally thinking his career's over. It's the unknown. You don't know. So you start to worry. He's human. He thought his career was over. He thought he's going to be dropped down to the minor leagues. And he's like, man, I don't know if they'll ever give me a chance again. Walter Johnson, the Hall of Fame manager, Hall of Fame pitcher, walked up to him after the game, and he addressed him right there. He didn't wait a day. He didn't wait a week. He just didn't keep it silent. He walked up to him. He said, Harold, Grandpa's Hal Trosky, Harold Trosky. He said, Harold, you will be my first baseman for a long time. I believe in you. And he tapped him on the back and he walked away. After that moment, my grandfather became the greatest rookie of all time, still today. Because of that moment in time, because he told him that he believed in him, regardless of the results. And you know what happened the next day? The next game? It's like lights out. Let's go. You know why? Because he doesn't even remember. It doesn't even resonate with him. But if you don't address it, you know what happens? That carries in your mind consciously, unconsciously, and it creates problems, and the voice of doubt will continue. So the environment that we're in is going to either build the voice of doubt or diminish it. And that environment is very, very important, giving them the freedom.
Awesome. Absolutely 100%. As Jeremy Sheetinger would say, that is audio gold right there. To steal his line. But all right, so let's move on to a related topic that's a major challenge for infield play, and that's focus, right? 140 pitches, 120, whatever in a high school, sometimes we get below whatever the number of pitches. I mean, I've coached games where we've thrown complete 7-inning games and 70 plus pitches, really close to 70. And then I've had them be almost double that, 140. Those aren't ones I want to be involved with, but it's happened. The guys on defense, they got to be focused for whatever 120, 140 pitches. Focus, being able to focus every single pitch, Nate. I want to talk a little bit about why that's so important, why it's such a challenge for players to maintain focus. And then some of this will piggyback on what we just talked about to a degree, but it's definitely its own topic. Okay, not being able to focus for an entire game, every single pitch. Thought.
So you asked me my thought?
Yeah.
I couldn't hear that. The wind was blowing. Okay.
Okay. You got me though? You understood why?
Yeah,
why?
I do got you.
Okay.
Now, accountability, goals, intent, absolutely essential for everything. We always set those concepts up for, I want to get a scholarship. I want to get my GPA here. I want to run this fast. I want to throw this hard. We set goals, we have intent, and we work for them. You know what happens? Very often you accomplish them. But the problem is the 5% controls the 95, period. So you can have all the tools you want. You could be the most talented guy, the most physical. Doesn't matter who you are, okay? If your mind is not right, the 5% controls the 95. And literally the body seeks to accomplish what you're thinking, period. So if you don't practice not taking pitches off, if that's because I don't know very many guys that actually practice it. I've never seen it in my life. Now, I'm not saying people don't, but it's a slim teach. Okay, it's not happening very often. We practice our back and we practice ground balls, we practice hitting. But how often do we practice? Do we literally train the brain? TDB, train the brain. The brain needs to be trained because the mind is a muscle too. So the question is how are you training the brain? And what are you doing regularly? Because the law of unintended consequences is very simple. What's left unintended goes unintended and it diminishes and declines. So if you're not literally working on your mental game, what happens to it? It gradually declines. The longer the time, the greater the decline. So if I'm not working my mental game, it starts to diminish. And then I'm surprised with a negative situation, something difficult, some adversity. You know what happens? I don't know how to respond because I'm not practicing it. So it's like prehabilitation. We work our arms, we do our bands, we do all of our exercises, we play our catch, we get our long toss, we do all this stuff to keep our arm healthy. That's to prevent it. But what are we doing to prevent our mental lapse, our mental breakdown when we get challenged mentally, when adversity comes? What are we doing? When we are challenged at baseball, taking out now to defense or being challenged on defense. Can I focus? Can I be present? So the question would be how do you actually do it? How do you practice it? Because it is everything. The ball travels when it's squared up 80 to 100 feet, 80 to 100 feet in half a second. If it's squared up, so you square a ball up, it's going to travel 80 to 100 feet in half a second. How fast down the line does an infielder or a base runner, any base runner, get when he's running home to first at 90 feet? He travels 8 to 10 feet, half a second. 8 to 10 feet, half a second. So what happens if you're a tenth of a second late? The base runner just went a couple feet. What did the ball just do? Just 1/10 of a second. If it's going to travel 80 to 100 feet, we'll round it off to 100. The ball travels 100 feet in half a second. How far is it traveling in 1/10? 20 feet. So what happens now? You're a tenth of a second late. The ball traveled 20 feet. So what I'm doing right now is shaping perspective, because once you understand the importance of tenths of seconds, you start to prioritize. And now your perspective is different as an infielder because you realize that every tenth of a second matters. Then you start talking about the 2-inch hop. If I want short hops and I want to make them consistently, it's all about tenths of seconds. It's my first step. It's my route. It's my reads. It's my commitment to going to get that ball. That tenth of a second matters because what happens is a 2-inch hop becomes a 5-inch hop. A 5-inch hop becomes an 8-inch hop. You know what happens? It's becoming an in-between hop every tenth of a second that I'm late. Right now I'm at the field. I'm at the football field. We just ran some 60s. Okay. 0.2 of a second is the difference between drafted in the 5th round versus the 30th round versus not getting drafted at all. You talk about the top 2 rounds, that's another 2/10 even better. So now we'll go 4/10. So if you go from a 6'4" to a 6'6" to a 6'8" to a 7 to a 7'2", every 2/10 of a second is absolutely significant if your position requires you to run. So it's 2/10. Well, the guy we've been working with up here he's an Olympian bobsledder. And he said, let me tell you something. We were talking with him last week. I said, you know, how important is tenths of seconds? He said, let me tell you something. In bobsledding, literally, you can call out your teammate. So if you're on the reserve squad, because it's hard to get on the Olympic team, right? You have the reserve squad, the alternates, and you have the big squad that's going to the Olympics. He said all the way up to he said something like a week before the Olympics. He said it's crazy. They literally can call you out. They can say, right now, coach, I'm going to call him out. I'm an alternate. It's like a backup shortstop saying, I'm going to call Trent out right now. We're going to take 15 ground balls. And whoever fields every ball and makes a perfect throw wins the job for tomorrow. That's literally what they do in the Olympics. And he said, you will lose your job if you are 1/100th of a second late. If the other guy beats you by 100th of a second, it's over. You're not going to the Olympics. The guy just sniped your job. So what happens is it changes your intent. It changes your focus. Well, what do you think? They're fighting for 100ths of a second. Our infielders need to fight for hundredths of a second. And when you start getting that mentality, because it matters, because I don't like 4-inch hops. I don't like in-between hops. I love making plays. I live to make plays. Now it changes your intent, your perspective, your focus. And that's just the beginning. We can go on with your intent on where you want to go. You know, how do you want to be recruited? What level you want to play at? Are you going to beat out Lindor? Are you going to play next to him? I mean, what are your goals? What are your intent? And then now it starts to change, because great players think different. And now, right now, what we're talking about is thinking different, period. We're not talking about anything else. Think different. You know what happens? The results start changing. You're going, wow, why is this guy a new man? It's because he thinks different. But we have to get into their minds, into their hearts, and make an impact there. You can tell your players all you want. Be on time, be on time. Let me just tell you, if they don't have perspective, and if they don't have the understanding of how important it is, you know what happens? They will take pitches off until they retire. And they won't even have a problem with it. So we must understand it's so much deeper than just, let's talk about it. Let's do a drill. It goes to intent. And I'm going to talk just for a second more. Okay, so my first year in professional baseball, what we would do, I was on the coaching staff, and I was in Infield, did a bunch of stuff. I had a bunch of jobs. This was probably 25 years ago. And after our game, this is what we would do every game. And I'd never seen anybody do this before, except our manager. Our manager was AA Manager of the Year for the Red Sox. He was really good. So I learned quite a bit from him. And he would do after every game, he would sit in the clubhouse for like 2 hours and just sit there. And I was like, man, I want to go home. I want to go eat some food. I'm like 24. I'm like, man, can I go get some food? But he would just sit there. And he wouldn't say one word. I'm like, what are we doing? Well, what he was doing was he was reflecting in his mind the whole game. He was running through the whole game. And then he pointed out one play in the whole game, which was the turning point or the game changer, the difference maker. One play in every single game you can pinpoint, every game. And if that play went different, you know what happens? The whole outcome of the game is completely different. Completely. One play. We botched a bunt. We missed that backhand for the first out of the inning. They ended up scoring 3. It's always one play. So if you understand that you're playing for that one play, you're playing for the turning point. Every play matters. And that one play is the significant game changer, the turning point of the game. So when you play with that type of intent and you understand that tenths of seconds matter, hundredths of seconds matter, and inches matter, you're at another level. But we have to get there, and we have to teach these guys mentally how to get their minds in a place. And then you go into the goal, and that's our goal for every infielder. When we take the field, our goal is not to take pitches off. And the body seeks to accomplish what you're thinking. I've said it like 10 times already. The body seeks to accomplish what you're thinking. So if I'm thinking I don't take pitches off and I'm actually conscious of it and I'm focused on it, you could write it right in your hat. You can put it on your batting glove that you put on before you put your glove on, whatever. It doesn't matter. But when you cross the line, we also have trigger words and trigger phrases. So when they actually cross the line, they practice a little mantra. I don't take pitches off, athletic and aggressive. It's very simple. So you come up with your own, but that's a great one. Right as I run across the line in a full sprint, I talk to myself. I tell myself the same mantra. I don't take pitches off. CEO, Grinder Nation, athletic and aggressive. So now I'm reminding myself who I am. I'm the grinder. I don't take pitches off. And then I'm playing athletic and aggressive. And those words are from Colton Wong, Gold Glover this year, a friend of mine. And I learned that from him. He said, that's my mind space, Nate. athletic, and aggressive. And that's what made him a Gold Glove. That was a contributor, thinking different.
That's awesome stuff. So here's the thing, you know, back when I played, you know, just thinking about focus and the importance of focus and what I could do myself to stay focused. There's a lot of things that come to mind, a lot of what you just said, and even, you know, some other things that I wanted to bring up, such as, you know, communication. As a shortstop, I felt like my job, I'm not talking about idle chatter. I'm talking about legitimate communication. You know, I consider myself, you know, the quarterback on the field. And by speaking to my pitcher, hey, me and you on a ball hit back to you with a runner on first and less than 2 outs, you know, me and you know, to just talking scenarios and situations, and sometimes even just encouraging, you know, kept me focused, because the worst feeling I ever experienced as a player was falling asleep, not literally, but mentally, and the ball being hit at me. It only happened a couple times in my life where I started daydreaming in a game for whatever reason. And next thing I know, this ball's coming at me, and you just talked about the speed at which it gets on you. And there's no worse feeling in the world. And a couple of times I was able to recover and make a play. And a couple of times it cost me, which ultimately cost my team. So the importance of communication, okay, in between pitches, which helps you stay in the moment, you know, and to be ready for the circumstances at which you can find yourself in the, you know, in the near future. You know, that's focus. If you're not preparing in between pitches, and the ball's hit to you and you're caught off guard as to the circumstance, you know, you're going to hesitate, and we don't have time for hesitation. So to me, that was a big thing. Another thing of the many that I have, and I don't know that we're going to be able to hit on them as I thought about this topic today, is being in physical condition. I think the physical and the mental are 100% tied together, as you've already discussed. And when I'm not physically in shape, I'm more mentally weak. I get tired. I'm physically exhausted. I'm hot. You know, my legs are out of shape, and I'm feeling it. And it's all a distraction. But when I'm in shape, when I'm in great physical condition, you know, my focus is stronger. You know, think about these tennis players that play 5-hour, 5-set tie breaks, you know, running back and forth. I mean, if you're not in the greatest physical condition, you're going to have these little lapses in focus, and you're going to miss your shot by a fraction of an inch, you know. So it's so important that you are in great physical condition and you are prepared to do your job. And taking, you know, there's a difference between running sprints, jumping rope, and taking ground balls. Okay. To me, all of it's important. All of it's important, but taking ground ball, being in ground ball shape, you know, is a huge advantage for me mentally. Okay. It also improves my confidence when I know that in the 7th inning or the 9th inning, and there's been 140 pitches, Nate, and I'm still on time, ready to go. I'm communicating. I'm focused. I'm expecting the ball. I know the scenario. My physical condition has something to do with that. And if I'm out of shape, I'm more likely going to be thinking, oh my God, I'm exhausted. You know, I'm so hot, and like, I'm not sure I can move. And here comes the voice of doubt, right? Because you're not ready. And it's tough. A baseball game, a 9-inning game, is 3 hours, give or take. You know, that's a long time to be standing on your feet. And it's not like you just showed up and played 3 hours. You had batting practice beforehand. You hit in the cages beforehand. You did your warm-ups beforehand. You threw long beforehand. You're taking ground balls in between innings. Okay. All of these things, you know, wear on you throughout the course of the day. And now you're going day after day after day after day. You know, if you're not in shape, you know, physically, your mental side is going to pay to a degree. I think they definitely go hand in hand. So those are 2 of about 5 things that I had written down that I thought about today, but I want to see where your brain has gone since I brought those things up.
I think it's a great, really great point. And very few people ever bring that up. That's a special point. You know, you think of a baby, when is a baby vulnerable? When they're tired, right? They're emotionally unstable when they're tired. When you think of a little baby, well, we're just big babies, really. We're just overgrown babies. We're emotional. We're human, just like a baby is. And a baby's unstable, and they have no ability to respond to adversity when they're tired. They just start crying all the time. Everything bothers them. And it's, you know, think about, like Trent's taught, your ability to be mentally strong. I mean, those are great points. I was just thinking about the baby. I thought it was classic because the little babies start crying when they're tired. But what happens when you're tired? You don't even have any mental strength and fortitude to make it through that, the adversity. So anyways, that's a great point.
I want to piggyback right on that. I have another great example. It just hit me. When I was in college and I was cramming for a test, okay, we're going to have anatomy and physiology test. And we had to remember all the bones in the body. And I would stay up all night and I would be so tired. And like, there'd be a question I would be studying and I just couldn't pull it together. It was so frustrating. And I would go to sleep, wake up the next morning, pull up that same question and go, oh my God, that's the easiest answer in the world. Blah, 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 because I was fresh and I was focused. Right. So being physically and mentally tired has a huge impact on your ability to be focused. I think a high school game. So bringing energy. Now, again, I'm not talking about singing songs in the dugout. Nothing against softball players. I think that's awesome when they do that. But in baseball, I personally don't have my teams do like synchronized chants in the dugout. That's just not my style. I don't mean to offend anybody if it's your style. However, genuine energy coming from the dugout keeps people focused. Okay. When you're in the dugout, guys are in the dugout. What are the coaches always saying? You need to pay attention to what's going on. How am I going to put you in the ball game if you're not focused and you're not present and you're not paying attention to what's going on? So, you'll have guys sitting on the bench, and they're like talking to each other about what they did last night or whatever. Okay. But when you're up and you're talking and you're cheering on your teammates and, you're staying positive. In high school, we don't play nearly as many games as college, and college doesn't play nearly as many as pro. Okay. Pros, they can't be rah, rah, rah. They can't bring that. You see it in the playoffs, right? You see it a lot in the playoffs, World Series. You see the energy going up. Okay. Because they're at that point when they can bring it. Well, in high school, to me, you should be able to bring it more. Youth baseball, you should be able to bring it more. Positive, focused on your team, but that helps focus, team focus, not just individual focus. Excuse me, coughing. Not just individual focus, which that's been the center of our conversation here, but team focus. Okay. So bringing energy to me is one of the things that I wrote down. Positive energy for your guys, not focusing on the opponent. Okay. And not being distracted with the opponent. Nate, one thing I always talked about, and I always talk about with my players, is playing nameless, faceless opponents. Okay. We get distracted. We lose our focus sometimes based on who our opponents are, what they're doing in their dugout, what they're saying, what they're doing. Okay. That's a distraction. If I want to be present in the I can't be focused on what the other team is doing. That's the beauty of baseball. You compete against the game. A ground ball is a ground ball. It doesn't matter who hit it. A pitch is a pitch. Doesn't matter necessarily who's pitched it to a degree. It's flying through the air. It's a ball coming in flight. Okay. And we put way too much focus on things that don't matter. So our focus has gone from what matters to what doesn't matter. And the key is to keep it on what matters. Okay. So we play nameless, faceless opponents. We compete against the game. We communicate. We're on time. We're ready to go, and you have to know as a player what works best for you, right? What keeps you focused and in the present. So, and that was just another thing that I wanted to add.
That's awesome. Nameless, faceless.
Yep.
Great.
Nameless, faceless opponents. So we're at 1 hour right here, brother. Why don't you go ahead and summarize, what we talked about, and maybe remind everybody what we got going on, and then I'll close this out.
Okay. Thank you guys for joining us today. I just want to wrap up just a little bit. Just want to close with a story. I still work with the German national team. That's how my experience began out in the Dominican Republic. And now I have a baseball academy out there, a Trosky Academy, Trosky Bowl. And I'm actually married now to a Dominican gal, and we have a little boy. And so it's very exciting. So I've learned a lot from the culture, from being there. So the German national team, we go there every year. And years before I was in Germany coaching at the professional level, and then I developed relationships. So now I'm in the DR. And one of our players with our national team, he was our shortstop. He was known for making errors, and he was very talented. He had two parents that played in were Olympic athletes. So he came from, tremendous genetics, and he was talented, but he made a lot of errors. And so the next year, he became the best fielder in the league. And I asked him, I said, Marcus, we were sitting down in the stands, and I remember distinctly, this was many years ago. And I said, Marcus, what happened? You're the best infielder in Germany now. Before, you had the most errors. And he said, all I did was just change my perspective. Before, I was trying not to make errors. Literally, I play each game, try not to make an error. Because now I play to make great plays. That's it. The body seeks to accomplish what the mind thinks in pictures. If you're thinking about making great plays, what do you make? Great plays. All he did was change his focus, period. And it's really that simple, but you have to practice it. And you have to retrain your brain. And that's going to the mind gym every day. You're training it, you're training it, you're training it. It's simple, positive words. I play to make great plays. And that is powerful because he went from a below average defender to the best fielder in the country. He didn't change one mechanic. He didn't take any more ground balls. He got his mind right. The 5% controls the 95. And it was a beautiful thing to see. Happens all the time. So take inventory. What is your default? What is your thinking patterns? What are your negative thinking patterns? What is getting in the way? What is your 5%? What is your fear? Most of our fears are irrational. Write them down. Think about it. Write them down. Think about it. Make adjustments. Change the way you think. Because the greatest separator of all is how you think, period. And Ginger changed his thinking pattern. And you know what happened? He became the best.
So here's my big take. Okay. I have numerous people on a regular basis ask me, how do I improve my son or daughter's confidence? How do we do that? And this whole entire hour has basically been surrounded with that. And if like, to me, of all the podcasts we've done so far, this one is my favorite because the information has been outstanding, in depth, easy to understand. At least for me, it has. And I hope it has been for the people that are listening. And young people need to understand this. And a lot of times you can't just grasp it, hearing it once. Don't share it for my sake or Nate's sake. We don't want the publicity. If you think the content is worthy, share it, because confidence is one of the hardest things to teach and improve. It is one of the hardest things. Okay. And when you have tools mentally that will help you accomplish that, okay, the worst thing you can do is blow it off, because I was a little bit guilty of that as a player. I kind of thought that the mental game, when I would hear people talk about, and I didn't hear it talked about much, but when I heard kind of that kind of talk, I thought a little bit, Nate, I thought a little bit pie in the sky. You know what I mean? Like a little bit pie in the sky. I didn't give it enough credence. And boy, what a big mistake that was. Okay. And the more I've coached and played and then coached and then been around guys and, get to know guys like you and Tim Hires and Steve Springer and, and Yeager, and just talk about all of this. I mean, it makes so much sense. And I fully believe that I did not reach my ceiling as a player because I didn't have these tools. It's too late for me now. It's too late for you, Nate, as players. Okay, we're coaches. So why is it always that people have to become coaches before they can figure out how the game's really played and what really matters? To me, that's a crime. Okay, that's a shame. So if you have this content right here that you can share, take notes, build off of, implement, implement this stuff with your kids and with your team. So many little nuggets of information that can make such a big difference. And I just think that, you know, I just share it. Please share it with your baseball people. Okay. If you think it's worthy, share it. That's my last thought. And I just hope to see everybody at camp tomorrow. If they haven't been a part of it yet, I promise you that it'll be worth every single penny. It's less than one lesson. It costs less than one hitting lesson. You're going to get 3 hours of content. And if you can't play defense, you know, it's going to be tough to advance in this game. And you and I, as you know, we're investing everything into making this awesome. I thought session 2 was absolutely off the charts. And I know tomorrow is going to be great. Anything you want to add before we close, Brett?
I just want to just remind people that the camp is not for beginners. It's for everybody. It's for elite players. It's the same stuff I work with when I'm working with professionals, top draft picks, and also young players. The right way is the right way, and the right way is actually simplistic. The question is getting people to do it the right way. And most people, you know, I spent 35 years understanding the backhands, the forehand, really understanding movements, and saying, you know what, we're going to teach the right way, and the right way is simple. So if you're 7, 6, 9, 10, it doesn't make any difference. It's simplistic. It's not easy, but it's simple, and it's going to challenge you. And the other thing we talk about every time is we just really ask you guys, like Trent said, to please spread the word on social media sites. This is how we build our brand and what we do and help get the word out. We're excited and passionate about what we do, and we're excited and passionate about you guys reaching your ceiling. And this mental game is important. And I'm going to close with this. Idle time. When you have idle time in your mind, you're thinking of nothing. You're doing dishes. You're making your bed. You're emptying the trash. That's valuable. Train the brain mind gym time. It's the most valuable. You're literally doing nothing. Your mind is just wandering to nothing, thinking about stuff that half the time doesn't even matter. Focus on trigger phrases, create them. And I'm going to give you one right now. I'm the best fielder and I'm going to get you out. You can say that 50 times while you're doing the dishes. I'm the best fielder and I'm going to get you out. I'm the best fielder and I'm going to get you out. I fear nothing. I fear no one. I can and I will. That's a mantra for you right there. And that's how you talk to yourself throughout the game. Jeter, by the way, was one of the greatest self-talkers of all time. Scott Brocious was his teammate. And he said Jeter was talking to himself all the time. And by the way, Jeter was not that talented, but he was the best player in the world. And he is today because his mind was right. He wanted the ball. And that's a big difference.
I have nothing else to add. We'll see you guys at camp tomorrow or Trosky Tuesday next Tuesday. Everybody have a fantastic evening. And Nate, thank you for another great night, brother.
Thank you, Trent. Great job. Thank you to everybody, Tony and everybody behind the scenes and Monterey Bay Pirates. And thank you. Talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.